It's late again. You've done your best, turned off the lights, turned down the thoughts, maybe even turned on the fan for that soft, familiar hum. But sleep still hasn't come. Not quite. Your body's still, but your mind is flickering like candlelight in a quiet room. Maybe you're holding something tonight. Anxiety, restlessness, grief, or maybe just the strange, unsettled feeling that comes with being awake when the world is not. Whatever it is, you're not alone, and you don't need to fall asleep just yet. You just need a story, a place to let your thoughts drift slow and soft and safe. So tonight, let's go back thousands of years, to a world of golden sand, slow rivers, and ritual, to a civilization that worshipped the body as a temple and paid dearly for it. Let's go to ancient Egypt and slip quietly into the world of beauty, painful beauty. You open your eyes. You're in a cool stone chamber deep within a limestone house. Sunlight filters in through thin slats in the walls, striping the floor with gold and shadow. There's a faint scent of myrrh and crushed rose petals. Bowls of oils rest on low wooden tables, clay jars, copper tools, polished obsidian mirrors, and a woman sits at the center, still, regal, tired in a way that doesn't show. She doesn't flinch as the beautician applies a thick paste under her arms. She's used to this, used to the sting, the scrape, the slow discomfort of being transformed into something admired. This is part of life here for royal women, noble wives, and anyone close enough to be seen. Beauty isn't luxury, it's expectation. Her eyebrows are being plucked hair by hair, her legs and underarms scrubbed with sugar and lemon until the skin is raw. Black coal is painted thickly around the eyes, not just for allure, but to protect against the sun and ward off evil. She winces just slightly as the eyeliner's edge is drawn too close, then breathes, steadies herself, because to be beautiful is to be disciplined, to smell of lotus, to walk smoothly, to appear effortless, even when nothing about this is easy. You sit quietly beside her, unseen, just a witness. You notice the small red marks on her ankles where sandals have rubbed the skin, the calluses on her hands, though she hides them well, the way she bites the inside of her cheek when the depilatory paste is peeled away. No one speaks of pain here, not out loud. They speak of grace, of poise, of divine reflection. After all, the gods are beautiful. To be seen is to be worthy. To suffer for that image is simply the way things are. If this story, this voice, is helping you feel a little softer, you're welcome to like or subscribe, only if it brings you calm, no pressure, just stillness. So, where are you right now? Curled on your side, blanket pulled up to your ears, phone slipping gently from your hand, eyelids heavier than they were 5 minutes ago, or just sitting in the dark, hoping this story can take the edge off the night. Wherever you are, however you are, you're okay. You don't have to be polished, or perfect, or even at peace. You just have to be present. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the air feel gentle on your skin. Let your thoughts move like the Nile, slow wide and winding. Tonight we'll stay a while in this room. We'll watch the rituals unfold, the beauty that required stillness, the elegance that masked effort, the price of being seen in a world that carved femininity into stone. Let's begin. Hey guys, tonight we're sinking gently into the sweet sandy silence of the Nile River Valley, where torches flicker along the limestone walls. The scent of incense coils in the dry air. And somewhere, a royal servant is smearing mineral powder into your eyelids. You're not just a noblewoman tonight. You're divine, at least. That's what they're telling you. But be warned, beauty in ancient Egypt isn't exactly a bubble bath and a face mask. It's sharp, it stings, and half of it might be trying to kill you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, post your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit cross-legged inside a plastered chamber, the floor cool beneath your linen-wrapped legs. In your lap, a polished bronze mirror. It's warped, sure, but it reflects well enough for you to apply your kohl, an inky black paste made by grinding galena, a lead-based mineral, into fine powder. You mix it with animal fat or water and gently, painstakingly drag it along the rim of each eyelid with a reed-thin stick. The goal isn't subtlety. You're aiming for something halfway between a cat and a falcon, wide-winged lines that stretch from the corner of your eye and fan out like the rays of Ra himself. Because in this world, beauty isn't just for show. It's spiritual, protective. That eye makeup. It's not only high fashion, it's also supposed to guard you against the evil eye and infection. Historians still argue whether the antiseptic properties of kohl were genuinely effective or simply a happy coincidence. Either way, it looks fierce, and in this world looking fierce means something. Even the poorest Egyptians might line their eyes in kohl if they could afford it, a symbol of hope, of divine alignment, of self-worth, etched onto skin. Outside, the sun beats down with its usual vengeance. You understand now why the gods needed worshipping. It takes divine mercy to survive the heat in a linen sheath. As you adjust the mirror and lean in closer, you notice that your left eyelid looks slightly thicker than your right. A servant hovers nearby with a damp cloth, ready to correct your handiwork. This isn't vanity. This is protocol, because the gods are always watching. You blink a few times, feeling the soft pull of the kohl drying. It's gritty, almost metallic. You resist the urge to rub your eyes. Doing so might smear your carefully drawn lines and, worse, make your soul look uneven. This is how your day begins. With a ritual, a costume, a transformation. You're no longer just a woman. You're an emissary between the mortal and the divine. Every Egyptian knows that the gods value beauty. It's one of the ways you can prove you're still worth their favor. Kohl isn't the only option, of course. Some temples stock rare colors, green malachite, deep ochre, but black remains the most widely worn, like a timeless classic. There's also a curious tidbit you overheard in the market one morning. Some claim that crocodile bile, when mixed with coal, enhances its protective powers. You decided not to test that theory. Yet, across the room, your friend Amunet has opted for a smoky gray today. You raise an eyebrow. She shrugs. Fashion is fluid, even in Thebes. It's easy to romanticize all of this, of course, until your eyes start stinging, because no one tells you how painful it can be, especially when a stray grit of galena lodges under your lid and makes your eye tear up for the next 3 hours. But you're still lucky. You're rich, which means your coal was sifted well. Most women, they risk blindness. Historians still argue whether this daily ritual was enforced socially or spiritually. Did people need to wear coal, or did they just want to? Perhaps a bit of both. After all, when your entire cosmology revolves around cosmic order, symmetry becomes sacred. Even your eyeliner obeys Ma'at, the goddess of balance. And yet, here you are wiping away a small smudge at the corner of your eye, trying not to ruin the rest. The bronze mirror wobbles slightly in your grip as a breeze flows in from the open window, sweet relief from the sweltering day. You hear temple bells in the distance echoing against the pale stone. As you finish the final flick of your eyeliner, a thought crosses your mind, one you've had before, and will have again tomorrow. If beauty really is divine, then why does it take so long to perfect? You smile slightly. The coal may sting, but at least you look terrifyingly fabulous. Your eyelids heavy with coal and sunlight already leaning too warm on your shoulders. You step into the inner courtyard, where a small breeze stirs the drying papyrus scrolls. But you're not headed to the temple yet. No, first you must handle what is arguably the strangest part of your morning hair, or rather, the conspicuous lack of it. You sit on a low stool while 2 attendants arrive, carrying brass razors and a bowl of lotus-scented water. They hum softly, as if the tune will distract you from the coming sting. You take a deep breath. One holds your head steady, while the other begins scraping your scalp with practiced precision. The blade makes short work of any stubble that dares return. Because here, a shaved head isn't just hygienic, it's elegant. A bald scalp is clean, divine, and far less attractive to lice. Historians still argue whether this was a fashion trend or an epidemic coping mechanism. Maybe both. You can imagine one particularly influential priestess shouting, "No lice for me, thank you," and soon enough, everyone's head was as smooth as polished alabaster. But of course, you don't stay bald. That would be scandalous. As soon as the final drop of water is dabbed from your gleaming scalp, the wig comes out. And what a wig! It's not a cute little bob or something breezy and manageable. No, this thing is heavy, crafted from thick palm fibers, human hair, or occasionally wool. Your wig is braided and layered into an intricate cascade. It tickles your back and smells faintly of myrrh and something else. Oh yes, beeswax, because stuck to the crown of your head is a small cone of perfumed wax. Yes, you're melting perfume on your wig. On purpose. That's not just decoration, it's a full-blown scent strategy. Over the course of the day, as the sun rises and your body warms, the wax cone melts, slowly, deliberately, releasing a controlled dose of fragrance designed to waft like divine breath whenever you move. The scent, a rich mixture of cinnamon, myrrh, and floral oils. Cleopatra herself would be jealous. Now, here comes the awkward part. The wax doesn't always melt evenly. Sometimes it runs down your temples. Sometimes it gets into your ears. Sometimes it clumps in your braids and makes you smell like a burned flower shop. Still, image matters. No upper-class woman would dare be seen in public without this strangely melty hat of olfactory power. A servant adjusts the cone, whispering that it's sitting crooked. You nod. Gods forbid your incense drip down your face asymmetrically. There's something both ridiculous and profound about all this. You've just willingly gone bald, only to strap a portable hair furnace on your head. But hey, beauty hurts. That's practically a motto in this age. You glance around and notice that even the children in the courtyard wear tiny wigs. One boy tries to sneak off his perfume cone, only to be scolded by a stern grandmother figure who slaps it right back on his scalp. You smile. He'll learn. You dab your wrists with scented oil. The wig has weight, actual physical weight, and your neck protests under its daily burden. You flex your shoulders. Not many beauty routines double as strength training, but this one does. Still, you'd feel naked without it. The wig isn't just fashion. It's identity, class, status. You're no one without your coils, your braids, your perfumed crown. Even men wear them, thick, curled, theatrical, especially at feasts where showing up in your natural hair is social suicide. Honestly, even mummies are buried with wigs. You chuckle softly. Somewhere out there, some archaeologist, thousands of years from now, will dig up your remains and marvel at how much effort you put into smelling like a flowering wax museum. You rise from the stool posture, tall crown, slightly tilted in the morning heat. The shaved scalp beneath your wig itches faintly, but you don't scratch. You're too dignified. Instead, you tilt your chin toward the sun, letting the first drops of melting perfume trickle down your temple. Somewhere, incense burns in honor of Hathor, the goddess of beauty. You whisper a quick prayer, not because you believe she'll answer necessarily, but because it's part of the act. And in Egypt, the act is everything. Even now, as you walk toward the temple steps, the air around you, thick with scent and heat, you wonder, do you smell divine enough? Historians still debate whether the perfume cones were ceremonial or daily wear. Frankly, you don't care. They melt the lice away and give you a scent that says, "I've arrived." You pause just before entering the sanctuary, turning your head ever so slightly. Someone compliments your fragrance. You nod graciously. Of course they notice. The scent is supposed to reach them first. The temple air greets you with a hush, cool incense, thick, dim. As your sandaled feet glide across the limestone floor, the fragrance of your wax cone mingles with the holy smoke of resin and cedar. You're not alone, of course. Dozens of others are here, swaying gently lips, moving in silent prayer. But every one of them, like you, is perfumed to perfection. Beauty here is worship. And one of the fastest ways to appear both holy and wealthy is to smell like heaven on earth. That's where your oils come in. You withdraw into a side chamber where a small flat tray waits a beauty altar of sorts. On it, delicate alabaster jars filled with unguents and oils so fragrant they could make a crocodile swoon. Jasmine blue lotus, cinnamon bark, myrrh, even crushed marjoram. You unstopper the lids one by one, inhaling deeply. It's a scent map of the empire. Today you choose the one the servants call Sun's Embrace, a mix of frankincense, lotus oil, and something slightly musky, possibly civet, which comes from the anal glands of a small cat-like creature. You wrinkle your nose. Beauty, as always, comes with conditions. You rub a dab into the crook of your elbow, pulse point first. That's the trick. You've learned from the priests that warmth releases the oils, allowing their scent to rise gently, like prayers. Historians still argue whether these perfumes were used primarily for seduction, protection, or ritual. Probably all three. In a world where the gods could smell your intentions, you didn't take chances. A temple servant hands you a scrap of linen subtly embroidered. You smile. It's not for decoration, it's to blot sweat, so your fragrance stays intact. Sweat, after all, is the enemy of sophistication. You notice one woman nearby dabbing behind her ears with a golden wand dipped in rose water. Another carries a tiny vial on a necklace, a scent amulet they call it. Smelling good here is practically a form of spiritual hygiene. There's even a belief that evil spirits can't stand good smells. They slink away at the first whiff of blue lotus oil, which is probably why you keep it in your inner robe pocket like an olfactory talisman. Some even say the gods favored the sweet-smelling, that Anubis turned his nose up at the funky. You're not risking your afterlife on bad body odor. Thank you very much. And so every day you anoint yourself with devotion, your wrists, your neck, your ankles. You're a human diffuser, a walking altar, a masterpiece in motion. The oil slicks warm against your skin. It's thick, almost too thick in this heat, but you remind yourself this is the cost of radiance. And honestly, it does make you feel more powerful. You smell like power, like mystery, like someone who's been blessed by Hathor herself. And here's a fun little tidbit you overheard in the market last week. Apparently, some women sent their jewelry, rings, bracelets, even hairpins, rubbed with oil before a big event, so that when a man kisses your hand, he walks away, carrying your fragrance. Brilliant. Devious. You made a mental note to try it at the next festival. You move through the temple slowly now, trailing scent behind you like a veil. A priest glances in your direction. He smiles faintly, whether he's impressed or just stunned by the overwhelming jasmine blast. You don't care. It's working. In the shaded outer courtyard, where vines creep up mud brick walls, you finally let yourself breathe deeply. The perfume has settled. The wax cone is dripping quietly but evenly. The unguents on your skin catch the faintest breeze, and for a moment, just a moment, you don't feel like a person trying very hard. You feel divine. Because here's the thing, in ancient Egypt, to be beautiful wasn't about seduction. It was about harmony, balance, order. You were aligning yourself with Ma'at by smelling sweet, by looking neat, by keeping the chaos of sweat and dust at bay. You were choosing civilization over the wild. And the gods, they noticed. Later that afternoon, the desert heat bears down like a personal challenge. You retreat to a shaded corner of the estate where two servants await you with bowls of crushed minerals, honey, and sea salt. It's time for your face mask, a beauty ritual that makes you feel equal parts royalty and sandstone statue. Your skin, glistening under the midday sun, is about to be scrubbed with dead sea salts and exfoliated with crushed alabaster. No, really, this is not a gentle spa treatment. This is warfare against pores. You brace yourself as the first handful of rough grains is mixed with oil and spread across your face. It smells oddly comforting, sharp, salty, with a hint of floral oil. You grit your teeth as they begin the circular motions, slowly, deliberately. If exfoliation were an Olympic sport, ancient Egyptian women would take the gold. Historians still argue whether these grainy scrubs were used daily or saved for special rituals. Judging by the way your cheeks burn, you hope it's the latter. But you're not done. Once the salt's been wiped away with wet linen strips, it's time for the honey. A sticky paste of raw honey and crushed herbs is applied in thick layers, coating your face like a golden glaze. The honey clings to your skin warm and sweet, oozing slightly at the edges. The scent is divine. Bees were sacred, after all believed to be the tears of the sun god Ra. So smearing their byproduct on your face, Totally appropriate. You sit still, don't move. The mask needs to set. Across the courtyard, you watch another noblewoman, fanning herself, with a palm frond, her own honey-coated face gleaming like a sticky idol. She looks bored. You probably do too. But this is important. Your skin must glow, not sparkle, not shimmer. Glow like a sunrise over the Nile, soft and golden, unmarred by blemish or dryness. And honey, with its antibacterial properties, is the perfect natural medicine, or so the scrolls say. You've also heard whispers, less official, more temple gossip, that some beauty masks contained powdered gemstones, not for effect, but for magic. Ground lapis lazuli or turquoise added to face masks to attract good dreams or ward off envy. Fringe idea, maybe. But if your enemy's skin is dull and flaky, and yours glows like Horace's eyeball, who's going to question the method? The mask begins to tighten. It itches slightly. A bee hovers close, clearly interested in your new fragrance. You don't move. You are a statue now, a beautiful, honey-slicked statue. And here's something no one tells you: removing a dried honey mask is not graceful. It pulls at your baby hairs. It sticks to your eyebrows. It makes a faint crackling sound like papyrus being crumpled. Still, when the wet linen finally wipes it clean, your skin does feel softer. You squint at your reflection in a silver dish. Radiant, maybe. Slightly flushed. Definitely. Just as you're about to relax, one of the attendants returns with something new, a bowl of greenish clay and a piece of limestone. You sigh. Yes, it's time for the bonus round. This clay mask, they claim, balances your skin and draws out bad humors. The limestone is to be used on rough patches, elbows, knees, sometimes even cheeks. You're not entirely sure it's safe, but it's what they say Cleopatra used. So, historians still debate whether ancient Egyptian skincare was more medicinal than cosmetic. Frankly, when your face is burning from salt, tingling from honey, and cooling under green sludge, you stop caring. You're doing it for the glow, for the gods, for the smug look you'll give Amunet when her cheek is just a little duller than yours tomorrow. You let your head fall back slightly, eyes closed. Somewhere in the garden, a lute plays lazily. You smell faintly of honey salt and something ancient, like parchment, left too long in the sun. You drift for a while, not sleeping, but close. Your face is drying again. You can feel it. Soon they'll rinse this off too. They'll pat you dry with linen. Then they'll bring out the scented oils again. Because beauty is not a one-step process in Egypt, it's an all-day pursuit. And you're in it for the long game. You think perhaps foolishly that your face has endured enough for one day. But then they bring out the bowl, and it hits your nose before your eyes register the shape. Thick, earthy, strangely sour. The main ingredient, crocodile dung. Yes, crocodile dung. You blink. You've heard of this before, of course. Everyone has. It's the ancient sunscreen/mystical shield passed down from priestess to servant to noble woman. But now it's your turn. You watch as one of the attendants, bless her heart, mixes it with a bit of honey and natron to tone down the odor, allegedly. And then, with no ceremony at all, she starts smearing it on your arms. It's warm, slightly gritty, and it smells exactly like you feared it might. The kind of scent that makes you wonder if you've angered a god. But this isn't a prank or a punishment. This is skin care. This is sun protection. This is deeply questionable. Historians still argue whether crocodile dung was genuinely used for skin care or whether it was part of temple rituals that got lost in translation. Either way, you're now wearing it. You sit as still as possible, not just to avoid smearing it onto your linen robes, but because, well, how else does one react to being marinated in reptile remains? Your attendant explains gently that the mixture creates a shield against the sun's burning jealousy. That's poetic, but you're pretty sure it just makes you smell like the Nile at low tide. You glance at your friend Amunet, who has her own version drying across her shoulders. She looks unimpressed. Maybe she's used to it. Maybe her skin has surrendered. You remind yourself that this is tradition. It's sacred. The ancient equivalent of SPF 50 and spiritual armor all in one. And besides, crocodiles are powerful symbols, sacred, venerated. Sobek, the crocodile god, represents strength, fertility, and protection. So, logically, his waist would do something powerful, too, right? You hope so. You think back to a priest you once overheard at a midsummer ritual, claiming that applying crocodile dung to the body repels evil spirits and malicious thoughts. You chuckled then. You're not laughing now. What makes it worse? You can't touch anything while it dries. That includes eating, drinking, scratching, or wiping sweat. And in this heat, everything makes you sweat. Still, you sit there patient and still like a soggy statue of Ma'at herself. The dung begins to crack at the edges. It flakes slightly. You try not to inhale too deeply. As you sit there, a child runs by, giggling, pointing at your arms. You look like Sobek's bride, he says. You manage a dignified nod. Inside, you're plotting to hide in your chambers until this whole ritual is rinsed away. And when it's finally time, thank Ra, it takes 2 full servants and several bowls of lotus water to get the stuff off. It doesn't go quietly. It clings like it knows it has a purpose. You want to believe your skin feels smoother afterward. Maybe it does. Maybe that's just relief talking. Still, there's something oddly empowering about it. You endured crocodile dung for beauty, for protection, for the gods. No one can question your devotion now. Historians still debate the actual efficacy of this bizarre paste, whether it blocked UV rays or just made you smell too awful for anything including the sun to approach. But the symbolism, undeniable. You rise, newly washed arms, still faintly red from the vigorous scrubbing. You smell better now, barely. Your skin glows, whether from sun embarrassment or divine light. You can't say. As you head back inside, a breeze flutters your tunic. You allow yourself one private thought. If the gods truly watch everything, they owe you a good day after that. And just like that, it's over. Until tomorrow. As the sun dips lower, casting honey-colored beams across the mud-brick walls, you settle into a low stool in the outer chamber. The scent of lingering incense still clings to your robe, and your arms, finally rid of crocodile goo, feel blessedly free. You think perhaps the day's beauty trials are behind you. Then the ivory knives appear. They gleam softly in the fading light, their curves gentle but unmistakably sharp. Manicures in ancient Egypt were not your average nail file and lotion affair. They were ceremonial, precise, and, depending on the sharpness of the blade, mildly nerve-wracking. You hold out your hands, palms up, as a servant begins shaping your fingernails. She uses a fine grit sandstone to smooth the edges, but for stubborn snags, that's where the knife comes in. Historians still argue whether these nail blades were status symbols or practical tools. But it doesn't matter when one's glinting half a centimeter from your cuticle. And yes, your nails must be dyed. Red is popular ochre mixed with fat or resin to tint your fingertips. Some even say the deeper the red, the more powerful the woman. Pharaohs were known to stain their nails, too. A family that paints together, rules together, apparently. You watch as a mix of henna and crushed carmine beetle is stirred into a small alabaster dish. It smells metallic, earthy. The servant paints each nail carefully, using a slender reed. You resist the urge to breathe too deeply. It stains the skin faster than expected, and once your thumb looks like a pomegranate, you'll be stuck with it for a week. Amunet peeks in and waves her newly polished fingers at you. Her nails are streaked with gold leaf. Show off. Still, this ritual isn't just for show. In Egypt, beauty rituals and hygiene were inseparable. Clean, groomed nails meant you respected yourself, your home, and the gods. And remember, the gods had long memories. You close your eyes as the servant begins on your toes. This is more precarious, ticklish, and slightly more painful, especially when they use a small bronze stick to clean under each nail. You try not to flinch. There's a fringe theory you once heard, whispered among temple apprentices, that the nail-trimming ritual aligned your personal aura with the celestial calendar. A cosmic manicure. No way to prove it, of course, but it does feel vaguely mystical when done right. And there's always the lingering threat of evil spirits. Some believe dirty nails could trap negativity, small pockets of chaos tucked beneath the surface of the body. It's absurd, probably. But would you risk it? The attendant pauses, blowing softly on the final coat of red. You flex your fingers gently. There's a glint now when you move. Under the flickering lamplight, your nails look like tiny blood rubies. You're proud, though you'd never say it aloud. It's a strange balance, this life submission to beauty and control through it. You submit your body to the tools of others, the razors, the knives, the pungent pastes, and in return, you gain the power to be seen, to command attention, to declare your status without speaking. The ritual is over. You sip from a cup of date wine and lean back, your fingers fanned delicately to dry. You've survived the ivory knives. You've emerged radiant. And just as you're admiring your hands, a servant enters with a thin gold ring. A gift, she explains, for your newly adorned fingers. You slip it on, and your hand feels heavier, more complete. Let the gods watch now. The day creeps on, and as the sun casts long golden limbs across the stone threshold of your chamber, a small boy arrives with a wooden tray. On it, 2 crushed reed brushes and a chunky gray powder block. You recognize it instantly and groan, toothpaste, or as your ancestors call it, the sacred grind. You sigh. It's time to polish your smile the ancient Egyptian way with a combination of pulverized pumice eggshells and maybe, if you're lucky, a touch of salt. If you're unlucky, charcoal and rock crystal. You pick up the reed brush. It's frayed and stiff at the end, like a mini straw broom. The powder's scent is vaguely smoky, with a hint of something acrid, like dried clay. Not a whiff of mint in sight. You wet the tip, dip it in the gritty paste, and press it against your teeth. The first scrub makes you wince. Imagine rubbing sandpaper on a seashell, slow scraping, a little bit squeaky. That's what it feels like. But in this world, a clean mouth isn't just about fresh breath. It's about health, holiness, presentation. You're not only cleaning your teeth, you're offering your voice clean and pure to the gods who value eloquence. Historians still debate whether these ancient blends did more harm than good. Some say the abrasives were enamel down to the root. Others argue they prevented infections in a world without dentists. All you know is that you're halfway through your scrub and already tasting blood. Your gums sting. The powder creeps between your molars like stubborn grit. You try to hum a song to distract yourself, but the vibrations make your skull feel like it's full of pebbles. Still, you persist. Because even now, in a land of wigs and wax cones, your teeth matter. Crooked, yellowed, or foul-smelling teeth are signs of disorder, and in a society that worships balance and Mahat, disorder is deeply unfashionable. You remember a story about a noblewoman who refused to eat dates for fear the sugar would cling to her teeth. "Let me starve before I stink," she said. You thought it dramatic then. Now, entirely reasonable. You pause to rinse your mouth with a bit of sour beer. Yes, beer. It's slightly antiseptic and doubles as a mouthwash. Probably not dentist approved, but it numbs the pain a little. Then comes the finishing touch, a dab of myrrh resin on your tongue. Bitter, sticky, and wildly unpleasant, but believed to prevent bad breath and make your voice pleasing to the gods. You gag slightly. And yes, it does feel like you're licking a tree wound. A servant approaches holding a small bronze mirror. You smile. Your gums are pink. Your teeth, well, they're still there. That's a win.
You whisper a thanks to Hathor for keeping your molars intact and vow to cut back on figs again. There's an odd kind of satisfaction, though. You feel polished, purified, as if you could speak a blessing and have it carry. After all, in this world, words are sacred. What passes through your lips can build temples or curse pharaohs. And if your breath is fresh while doing either, so much the better. Just as you're about to put the brush away, an older woman, wrinkled and wise, enters and taps her teeth. She pulls a pouch from her belt, ground mint leaves. She winks, mixes it into her own powder, and starts brushing with the confidence of someone who's been doing this longer than the pyramids have been standing. Fringe theory or not, you decide to try it next time. Anything to make this routine a little less punishing. You stretch your jaw, savor the quiet, and smile again, carefully, reverently, because you've just offered one more part of yourself to the sacred rhythm of Egyptian life. Evening nears, and the warm air begins to thicken, not with heat, but with stillness, the kind that clings to your skin and suggests the world is winding down. But you're not done yet. No, now comes the part of your beauty routine that no one dares to skip depilation, because in ancient Egypt, the ideal woman is sleek, smooth. Not a single stray hair interrupts the divine geometry of your form. You lie back on a woven mat as a servant brings a shallow dish of sugaring paste honey water and lemon boiled until it thickens to the consistency of warm amber. It glistens under the oil lamp like golden syrup. Looks innocent enough. It isn't. She tests a small blob on your arm, then without warning, presses it down and yanks. You gasp, not dramatically, not aloud, just enough that your soul briefly leaves your body. Historians still argue whether sugaring was invented for beauty or for hygiene. It's likely both. In a desert climate, body hair traps dust and sweat, two things Egyptians were obsessed with avoiding. Smooth skin meant order, cleanliness, closeness to the gods. You lie still as more paste is applied. Legs, arms, even your underarms. Hair is the enemy, and this paste is the weapon. The technique is deceptively graceful. Press, pull, flick. Like weaving, but meaner. A Munette once joked that she'd rather give birth than get her legs waxed. You thought she was exaggerating. You now understand she was not. And if you're particularly daring or rich, there's the copper shell. Yes, the infamous seashell scraper. It's about the size of your palm, its edge honed just enough to act like a dull blade. In the hands of a skilled servant, it glides across your skin, lifting hair in its wake. In the hands of an apprentice, let's just say the results include regret and mild bleeding. Today, you're lucky. Your attendant is skilled, steady, and mercifully fast. She hums under her breath, an old tune, half lullaby, half distraction, as she works her way across your body like a sculptor, removing all the unnecessary pieces. You watch the stray hairs fall like soft lines of shadow on the mat. Then they're swept away as if they were never part of you. There's a fringe belief whispered, not formal, that body hair traps bad dreams, that to be truly free, you must be smooth, inside and out. You don't know if it's true, but you do sleep better after a full scrub. When it's all over, your skin tingles. Not from oils or pastes this time, but from exposure, from being wholly bare to the world again. A bowl of cold water is brought in. The servant pats your limbs gently with damp linen, followed by a touch of aloe oil to calm the angry pinkness. You glance down and flex your leg, smooth, untouched, slightly stinging, but undeniably divine. You catch your reflection in a polished mirror, slim, shining uninterrupted by the shadows of stubble or fuzz. You smile, not because it was pleasant, but because it's done. For now. Historians still debate the frequency of depilation. Was it weekly, monthly, daily? The answer seems to be as often as necessary. And when your social standing is tied to appearance, necessary comes around a lot. Even tomb paintings show hairless figures, gods, queens, and servants alike. Smooth skin was the ultimate canvas. It suggested rebirth, cleanliness, power. You rise from the mat slowly, your joints a little stiff. The air feels different on your body, now cooler, lighter, like your pores can finally breathe again. Outside, the sun slips behind the date palms, the Nile glows bronze, and you glow too. From pain, from ritual, from the strange satisfaction of knowing that your body, this curated, polished vessel, is ready for the night ahead. And tomorrow you'll do it all again. As the sky deepens into dusty lavender and the first stars begin to whisper their light across the Nile. Your beauty journey is far from over. The flicker of a torchlight reveals the next step in your transformation. A ceramic dish filled with powdered green malachite. Yes, you're about to smear powdered copper ore onto your eyelids. You take a seat before your mirror, already knowing how this will go. The malachite has been finely ground and mixed with a bit of oil to make a smooth pastel green paste. You've used it before. It's beautiful, dramatic, and slightly alarming. Because if coal made you mysterious malachite, makes you radiant, alien, even holy. You dip the reed applicator into the green sludge and draw it carefully along your lower lids, curving upward toward your temples. The color flashes brilliantly in the lamplight, serpentine metallic, impossible to ignore. This isn't a casual look. This is a declaration. Historians still argue whether the green malachite eyeshadow was ceremonial or everyday wear. Some think it represented regeneration and healing connected to the god Horus. Others think it simply made your eyes look large
and divine. You don't particularly care. You just know it makes people stare, and not always in admiration. The malachite powder sometimes causes a faint burn, an itchy metallic sting at the corners of your eyes. Not enough to cry, but enough to make blinking a conscious act. Some of the poorer women use lower grade powder mixed with chalk. You tried it once. It was like rubbing crushed pottery into your face. You regretted it for days. There's a story told in the kitchens. A woman once went blind using too much malachite in a rush. You assume it's an exaggeration. But as you draw the final sweeping arc along your brow bone, you do wonder if the gods ever regret giving humans access to glittery minerals and no instruction manual. Across the courtyard, you spot a dancer adjusting her face paint. Her malachite is even brighter, almost glowing. She winks. You nod. It's a silent acknowledgement. We know how this feels. The beauty, the risk, the power. And that's the thing, green isn't just color. It's a symbol of life, rebirth, fertility. To wear green on your eyes is to declare yourself in touch with eternity. There's a fringe belief, whispered by old nursemaids and temple workers, that malachite connects the wearer to the underworld, that by painting your eyes in this sacred green, you signal to the gods that you're not afraid of being seen, even in death. You examine yourself in the bronze mirror. The green arcs upward like the wings of a scarab, regal, sharp, mysterious. You look like someone who knows how to curse crops and call down the moon. Excellent. Your attendant hands you a small cloth and reminds you not to rub your eyes. You smile dryly. Not unless I want to cry green for the next week. You rise from the stool and test your vision. Blurred? No. Just a little heavier than usual, like carrying something precious around your gaze. You blink once. Twice. The malachite holds. Outside, the frogs begin their nightly chorus. The scent of charred myrrh drifts through the air. You walk slowly, letting the night embrace you. You're painted, polished, painless. Not exactly. But then again, when has power ever come easy? And as you glide into the evening, the copper dust still glittering faintly at your temples, you smile to yourself. Somewhere deep in the stars' quiet laughter, a goddess nods. You barely have time to admire your malachite masterpiece before another familiar scent curls through the air, warm floral, almost earthy. Saffron. You know it instantly. It means the perfumes are being prepared again. But this time, it's not just any perfume. It's the saffron one, the rarest, the most decadent, the kind that announces your presence before you even enter a room. You follow the scent to a shaded room where a servant is carefully heating a tiny brass pot over low flame. Inside, thin strands of saffron float in oil like precious golden threads. The color alone could bankrupt a merchant. The smell, enough to silence a noisy hall. But do you know how this perfume is made? You glance at the servant's bare feet and suppress a smile. Because yes, this particular saffron infusion, the most prized of all, is sometimes pressed not with mortar and pestle but with feet. Historians still argue whether the foot-pressing method was real or just gossip passed around temple kitchens. But the rumor persists. You've heard it whispered at feasts half laughed about during spa days, that the scent somehow absorbs your essence when prepared this way. That saffron oil made by foot pressing binds itself to your aura and makes your words linger longer in the minds of men. Fringe, definitely. Effective. Well, your last appearance at the Festival of Drunkenness certainly turned heads, and you were wearing this very perfume. You hold out your wrist, and a drop of the golden oil is dabbed onto your pulse point. It's thick, syrupy, and glows faintly in the firelight. You inhale deeply. There it is, that rare mix of warmth, sharpness, and something vaguely animalic. You can't help but think of the field workers plucking each delicate saffron stigma by hand, hundreds per vial. Then imagine someone stepping on them intentionally, rhythmically. Beauty rituals always have that strange duality, sacred and absurd, painful and poetic. You're never quite sure which side of the line you're on. The servant gestures toward a wooden box filled with scented linen strips. You pick one and press it gently under each arm. Deodorant, Egyptian style. Not content with simply smelling like a goddess, you take one last drop of saffron oil and rub it behind each ear where your heartbeat pulses gently. Then, in a moment of impulsive mischief, you anoint the inside hem of your robe, so that when you move even slightly, the scent trails with you like a secret. Across the courtyard, you hear Amunet call out. She's drenched herself in rose oil again, always a bit too much. You grin. The rose girls are always obvious. The saffron girls. They linger in memory. Historians still debate whether perfume use was more prominent among nobles or priests, but you know the truth. Anyone with ambition and a nose wears perfume. The more layered the scent, the more complex the story you're telling. You sit in the shadows now, letting the warmth of the oil melt into your skin. It clings differently to each part of you, sweeter on your neck, spicier at your wrists. Even your breath tastes a little like blossoms. There's a saying passed from mother to daughter. Be so fragrant, the gods know your name before you pray. You finally understand it. And as the moon rises higher and your skin glows with saffron light, you feel ready for dinner for the evening, for whatever divine judgment beauty still demands. As the moon climbs higher and the Nile breeze grows cooler, the house fills with a soft, humming energy. Musicians begin to tune their instruments. In the courtyard, guests are arriving for the evening meal, and you're not even close to finished. There's one more ritual before the night begins: henna. You've already sent word to the henna artist, who arrives wrapped in linen, with a narrow jar in one hand and a carved wooden stick in the other. You sit cross-legged on a cushioned mat while
She unwraps a bundle of cloth to reveal the paste, deep, orange-brown, pungent, earthy. She stirs it slowly, murmuring a chant under her breath. You don't understand all the words, but you know the meaning. This isn't just decoration, it's protection. Henna, in this world, is more than a cosmetic. It's a spell. Historians still argue whether henna was used primarily for beautification or spiritual shielding. You believe both are true. The dye made from crushed leaves and mixed with sour fruit juice stains the skin for weeks, but the shapes it's applied in, those tell another story entirely. Tonight's design is elaborate. It stretches across your palms in loops and lines, wrapping around each finger like ivy. Circles for the sun, spirals for eternity, a lotus motif for rebirth. As she paints, the artist warns you: don't move, don't sweat, don't fall asleep too soon. The longer the paste stays on, the deeper the color. The deeper the color, the stronger the magic. You've heard tales, some funny, some chilling, of women whose henna came out too pale, seen as a bad omen for weddings, childbirth, even travel. One cousin had her marriage delayed after her henna faded overnight. She blamed a jealous neighbor, but the priestesses whispered it was a sign from the gods. Amunet, of course, boasts orange palms as bold as flame. She insists it keeps away bad husbands. You're not sure if she's joking. The henna artist finishes your right hand and begins the left. The paste feels cold at first, then warm as your skin begins to absorb it. You try not to twitch. Try not to think about the itch creeping in between your fingers. This is a lesson in patience as much as beauty. Your thoughts wander to your ancestors. You imagine them crouched just like this by torchlight hands outstretched and stained with sacred earth. There's something timeless about this ritual. Even the gods are depicted with henna on the walls of old tombs. A fringe theory you once heard says the smell of henna wards off wandering spirits. Others say it pleases Hathor directly, that she smiles at the sight of spiral patterns blooming across a woman's skin. Outside, the drums begin slow, low, rhythmic. You inhale the mixture of lotus incense and henna paste, eyes fluttering closed. The artist blows gently across your hands to help the drying. You smile, faintly entranced by the texture, the ritual, the weight of it all. She moves to your feet next. A quick design along the toes anklets made of dots and curves. A second servant fans your legs with a palm frond to prevent smudging. You're a walking canvas now, a living sigil. Historians may continue debating the true purpose of henna, but you understand it in your bones. It's protection. It's transformation. It's a way to leave your mark on others, on the evening, on time itself. The artist hands you a narrow linen band. You wrap your hands lightly to keep the paste from flaking too early. She bows, then slips away her own fingertips, glowing like embers. You sit in stillness, listening to the buzz of insects and the distant rustle of river reeds. In this moment you feel powerful, not just beautiful. You are marked, adorned,
remembered. And when your hands finally stain deep orange, you'll carry that reminder for days that once, under a waxing moon, in the heart of the desert, you became the story written in dye. The evening air is thick with celebration now. Laughter drifts in from the courtyard. The low beat of drums thrums beneath your sandals, and the scent of roasted duck and honey cakes lingers just beyond the threshold. But before you can join the feast, there's one last touch to prepare your hair, or more accurately, the illusion of it. You step into the grooming room once more, where your wig waits carefully, perched on a headrest. Tonight it's not the usual palm fiber coils. No. This one is your prized possession, a shoulder-length cascade of human hair blended with yak for thickness and gloss, pre-oiled with almond and cedarwood. It shines like obsidian in the lamplight. But before it can grace your head, there's one ingredient you must apply. A servant appears with a small clay bowl. Inside, rendered animal fat, beef tallow, infused with cinnamon bark and sweet myrrh. She dips her fingers into the warm paste and begins massaging it into your scalp. Yes, it smells better than it sounds. You close your eyes as her fingers work in slow circular motions. The tallow melts against your skin, coating your bare scalp with a slick sheen. This is the original hair gel, the ancient secret behind that impeccable Egyptian luster. It tames flyaways, protects the wig from dryness, and if legends are to be believed, encourages hair growth. Historians still argue whether the use of animal fat was primarily cosmetic or medicinal. Some say it was simply the most available conditioning agent. Others insist it was sacred, a symbolic link to the fertility of cattle and the abundance of Hathor. You just know it makes your wig sit right and gives it that glorious sheen when the firelight catches it. With the scalp prepared, the wig is positioned carefully, reverently. The servant secures it with braided cords and gently pats the crown to ensure it aligns with your forehead markings. You catch your reflection in a polished copper mirror. Stunning, but you're not done. To style the wig, a thin ivory comb is used, and your attendant adds tiny gold beads to a few of the front braids, just enough to catch the eye, but not shout over your henna'd hands. She dusts the entire length with a bit of crushed lotus pollen, an old trick to leave a faint floral scent in your wake. Subtle, regal. You glance down at the leftover bowl of tallow and smile to yourself. This is what elegance smells like in your world, animal fat and crushed flowers. No one ever said divine femininity would be tidy. The wig is heavy, of course. You feel it at the base of your neck, a constant weight pulling slightly backward. But it's familiar now, almost comforting, like armor. You wouldn't leave your chambers without it. Amunet once joked that she could face down an invading army with her wig alone. It's a weapon, she said. And, if nothing else, it makes a lovely shield from judgmental stares. There is a fringe belief, whispered by older temple women,
that the longer your hair or your wig, the longer your soul will linger after death. Whether that's meant to be hopeful or terrifying, you're not sure. But you keep your longest wig well oiled, just in case. You add a final touch, a thin band of lapis lazuli placed across your forehead. It doesn't hold the wig, it holds attention. And in Egypt, attention is everything. Historians still puzzle over why wigs were such a central part of Egyptian beauty, even for the lower classes. Was it merely fashion, or did hair, real or fake, connect one's identity to the gods? After all, deities are almost always depicted with perfect braids and thick symbolic locks. You rise from the stool posture, straightening as the weight settles perfectly into place. With every step, your wig sways in perfect rhythm, trailing grace behind you like a shadow. Tonight, you're not just ready, you're complete. You are scent. You are geometry. You are smoothness, shimmer, and silhouette. And as you move toward the courtyard, lights your wig, catching gold from every flickering flame. You feel every pair of eyes turn just slightly, just enough. Because when a woman walks like she's wearing a temple on her head, people notice. The night is deep now. Outside the Nile laps against the stone banks like a lullaby, and the stars shimmer overhead like crushed pearls spilled across obsidian silk. You've danced. You've been admired. Your skin carries the scent of saffron and myrrh. Your eyes glint with malachite and your hands bloom with henna. You should feel complete. But here in Egypt, the truest beauty ritual isn't for the day. It's for eternity. Because real beauty, the kind that matters most, is the kind they pack with your bones. You rise from your seat, still barefoot, from the courtyard, and move slowly toward the innermost chamber of your home. It's quiet here. No music. No servants, just the stone coolness, the soft flicker of torchlight, and shelves lined with boxes you only open when no one's watching. This is your afterlife collection. You run your fingers across the smooth lid of an alabaster jar. Inside, coal wrapped in linen to keep it dry. Next to it, a polished reed applicator. Beside that, a thin vial labeled in fading ink. Oil of Isis for eyes closed in peace. You uncap it and take a breath. The smell is sharp, musky, and almost smoky, like something sacred stored too long in the dark. You feel it tingle behind your eyes. That's how you know it still works. Historians still argue whether the ancient Egyptians applied cosmetics to the dead or merely packed them for use in the afterlife. But you don't argue. You know the truth. You do both. Because when you stand before the gods, you want to be radiant, prepared, and most of all, recognizable. You lift a flat rectangular case filled with pigment. One tray is red lip stain made from ochre and crushed pomegranate rind. It's rich and earthy, a color meant to declare, I was once warm. Another tray holds a pale chalky powder for brightening the skin. You apply a dab with your fingertip.
It clings, even in the humidity. Your reflection in the bronze mirror glows faintly subtle, almost ghostly. You sit quietly on a stool carved from sycamore, its edges worn by time and touch. From beneath a cloth, you retrieve your shabti, a funerary figurine, your size and likeness. She stares back with painted black eyes, rimmed in ink hair, carved in detailed waves, a necklace like yours strung tight across her chest. You've had her since girlhood. She's meant to labor in your place in the afterlife, to weave grain answer for you, but only if she's ready. So, tonight, as always, you check her carefully. You smooth her hair. You repaint the edges of her lips. You wipe a thin line of dust from her forehead, because if your shabti must speak on your behalf, she will do so beautifully. There's a fringe belief, old and whispered, that if your burial cosmetics are smudged or neglected, your spirit may become confused. It won't recognize itself. It may wander unseen, unable to speak, in the hall of Mahat. You've never been one for superstition, but still, you never skip this ritual. Just in case. Next, you pull out the linen wrappings, soft, already oiled, carefully stitched. Yours are embroidered with tiny blue lotuses, a quiet rebellion against the sterile white others choose. You want to arrive in the next world, blooming. No wrinkles, no ash, no fear. Only color and fragrance. You pause for a moment and just breathe. You can hear the river, even from here. You think about your mother, how she painted her nails before visiting the temple, how she insisted on dyeing her fingertips, even when she could barely stand. A woman must look her part, she said, in this world or the next. You didn't understand her then. You do now. Historians will continue to debate whether these were vanity objects or religious essentials. You don't care. You feel the truth in your hands, the smooth wood of your comb, the scratch of the linen, the quiet dignity of preparing for a beauty no one alive will ever see. You place everything back in its rightful place. You dab a dot of lotus oil on the inner lid of the box, not for yourself, but for the one who will someday open it. When that time comes, you want the scent to linger, a message without words. And when you rise, you walk from the chamber slowly, your footsteps silent on the stone. You don't look back. You don't need to. You know it's ready. Because one day, many years from now, you will lie on a stone slab, eyes closed, lips still stained, hands painted, hair wrapped in fragrant cloth. You will wear your best linen. You will look like yourself, the best version of yourself, the version ready to meet eternity. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the most beautiful soul in the room. The next morning arrives slow and golden, stretching across your chambers like warm silk. You wake not to sound, but to scent the soft sweetness of burned cedar, the faint citrus tang of lotus still clinging to your skin. The rituals of yesterday are behind you, but today, as always, begins again with linen.
And not just any linen. You step into the dressing chamber where a line of fresh garments hangs waiting. The servants have been up since before dawn, preparing your wardrobe, pressing folds, smoothing edges, and layering the finest weaves into neat perfection. They hold up a robe, thin ivory linen, woven so tightly it's nearly sheer under morning light. One servant spreads it out between her hands like glass. Another carefully lifts it over your head, lowering it onto your body with reverence usually reserved for temple idols. In Egypt, clothing isn't just modesty, it's a status symbol, a daily proclamation of wealth, order, and beauty. And linen is everything. Historians still argue whether the obsession with linen was born of practicality or purity. It's true, it breathes well in the heat. But more than that, linen was believed to be clean in a spiritual sense, untouched by decay. Fitting then that mummies are wrapped in miles of it. The dead are buried in the same cloth you wear to dinner. You let the servants wrap the inner layer first, then a second. This one dyed faint blue with indigo. The outer robe follows longer, heavier, embroidered at the hem with tiny lotus blossoms, barely visible unless you're kneeling or caught mid-step. The layering is strategic. It gives your silhouette shape while hiding imperfections. The folds create shadows where you want depth. Light catches on the smoothest planes. It's architecture, really. Architectural beauty stitched from threads. You glance at your reflection in a polished copper mirror. The linen clings lightly to your shoulders, floats around your hips, and catches behind your ankles like mist. You adjust a shoulder knot, making sure the line runs true down your spine. This is how one dresses to be noticed and remembered. But linen is not just fabric. It's history. It's labor. Somewhere in a village near the delta, women combed flax with rough fingers, beat it on stones, spun it in circles for days, then passed it down the line to be woven into cloth finer than temple gauze. Some garments took months, the sheerest ones, years. And then you wear it once, spill date wine on the sleeve, and it's back to the weavers. You reach for your belt, braided leather, dyed red, buckled with bronze. It's not for support. It's to pull the linen snug against your waist, to suggest a shape without declaring it. You add a sash, decorative, only threaded with faience beads that click faintly when you walk. A servant appears, holding your sandals. You lift one foot, then the other. The straps wrap around your ankles, each movement slow and practiced. These too matter. Sandals say you're going somewhere, even if you're not. Another servant brings out jewelry, an arm cuff, inlaid with turquoise, a collar of polished lapis earrings, shaped like tiny scarabs. You select what balances the rest. Too much, and you look gaudy. Too little, and you look poor. The goal is harmony. Always harmony. There's a fringe belief among temple scribes that the goddess Ma'at can see your linen from across the divine veil. If your layers are even, she knows your soul is aligned. If not, well, better not to test that theory. You sit once more to apply perfume, not the saffron of last night, but something lighter. Rose water for the ears, sandalwood behind the knees, a dot of cinnamon oil at the base of your throat. Each note blends with the linen like a signature only the attentive can read. And now finally you stand, wrapped in colorless light, drifting silent, shaped and sculpted by fabric. You aren't merely dressed, you're composed. As you step outside, the wind catches your robe and lifts it slightly. You feel like you're floating part woman, part ghost, part him, to the sun. Historians may continue to debate the true significance of linen layers in Egyptian life, but you don't. You feel it now, woven against your skin, the weight of beauty, the breath of tradition, the memory of hands that crafted each fold. And in this moment, draped in whispering cloth and warmed by morning, you are exactly what you intended to be. A vision shaped by thread, a message sent to the gods and to the world. The afternoon sun spills across the temple courtyard, burning white hot against the limestone walls, and still you add more gold, because in Egypt, beauty doesn't stop with skin scent or silk. It sparkles, it gleams, it announces itself. You sit beneath a woven canopy, half shaded from the relentless light, while your attendant approaches with a shallow bowl of gold dust, real gold, beaten, shaved, ground into powder, so fine it floats like smoke when stirred. She pinches a small amount between her fingers and leans in, carefully, reverently. She begins to dust it into your hair, or rather your wig. You're already draped in layered linen, your eyes rimmed in malachite, your lips glowing with pomegranate stain, but this final touch isn't about elegance. It's about power and spectacle. Historians still argue whether gold dust in hair was reserved for the elite or performed widely at religious ceremonies. But everyone agrees to shimmer in sunlight was to draw the eyes of gods and men alike. The dust settles between the dark braids, catching in the oil from this morning's animal fat polish. You feel each flick of her fingers like static along your scalp. It tingles slightly, and it smells oddly clean, metallic, holy. You've done this before. During festivals, feast days, moonrights. You remember one gathering where the wind caught your goldened hair just right, and someone whispered that you looked like Hathor herself. You said thank you, of course, but silently you agreed. There's a fringed tale you once heard, whispered by the incense sellers in the market, that too much gold near the crown could invite divine possession. The gods are drawn to shimmer. One old woman told you. They'll think your head is a beacon. You laughed then. Now as the powder gathers along your temple and falls down your shoulder like a tiny sandstorm, you wonder. The sun shifts overhead. The dust comes alive. Each motion of your head sends motes flying, catching midair like glittering insects. It's not subtle. It's not supposed to be. You reach for a bronze hairpin shaped like a falcon and anchor one braid loosely behind your ear. The metal glows where it peeks from beneath the dust. A calculated flash. A little drama just enough to say I know exactly what I'm doing. Your servant hands you a hand mirror polished to near perfection. You peer at your reflection and smile. You look expensive, like someone made from sunlight and gold. A munette walks by and whistles softly. "Showing off again?" she asks. You tilt your chin upward and reply with mock innocence, "I'm simply aligning with Ra." The truth is, in a world where beauty is both armor and offering, you don't wait for permission to shine. You become the sun. And let's be honest, this gold isn't just decoration. It's insurance. If you drop dead in the middle of a feast, they'll bury you just as you are. Wig intact, lips stained gold, glittering. And you'll arrive in the afterlife looking more radiant than the priestesses who prepared your journey. Some say the gods favor those who sparkle. You're counting on it. The final dusting goes over your shoulders, just a hint on the collarbones and along your wrist bones where it glows against your jewelry. It doesn't feel heavy. It feels like something you earned. You stand slowly. The powder drifts down like a veil. The sun kisses your wig and the courtyard hushes. Even the musicians pause for a beat too long. You don't speak. You don't have to. You shimmer. And in Egypt, sometimes, that's enough. By now the sun hangs low on the horizon, spilling molten gold over the rooftops and turning the limestone courtyards into giant, glowing mirrors. The breeze is soft, now gentle, like the world is holding its breath. Your robes shift with the wind, your skin, freshly perfumed and powdered, glows in the light. And yet, even now, as you prepare for evening prayers, or perhaps a moonlit gathering, there's one detail still left untouched. Your eyebrows. You pause before the mirror, tilt your chin slightly, and inspect the damage the day has done. Between the sweat, the dust, the touching of your face, innocent gestures really, your carefully drawn brows have faded at the edges. The arch has dulled. The lines are soft. You look fine, but not sharp, not sacred. And in Egypt, that's not acceptable. You settle into your stool, feet tucked beneath you, and reach for your eyebrow tools. They are simple yet sacred, a burnt almond toasted to black over flame until its outer skin curls and cracks like tiny papyrus scrolls. A crushed charcoal cake mixed with resin. A fine reed stylus cut into a slant so narrow it could split a grain of sand. You take the almond first and grind it gently along the surface of a stone pallet. The smell of smoke lingers in the air, earthy, faintly bitter. You dip the stylus into the dark powder tap once to shake off excess and begin. The line starts low near the bridge of your nose. It sweeps upward gently, hugging the brow bone, then curves and tapers to a point, sharp, deliberate, like the wing of a hawk caught mid-flight. Then the second, slower. You're careful not to blink too much, not to squint. One wrong flick, and you'll spend the next 10 minutes evening out, a mistake that only you will notice, but which will haunt you for days. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptian eyebrow shaping was purely aesthetic or deeply spiritual. Many believe it was both. You believe it's essential, because a well-shaped brow frames not just the eye, but the self. It says to the world and to the gods that you understand order, balance, and the importance of discipline. You blend with a fingertip, softening the edge just slightly. Then you layer charcoal over the arch for depth. A touch of oil follows, just a whisper applied with a reed comb to smooth each individual hair into place. You don't want it to shine, just to hold. Amunet enters briefly and watches you from the doorway. Still at it, she teases. You raise a single brow, your better one, obviously, and reply, "I'm not risking an uneven sole." She laughs and vanishes into the hallway, her own brows slightly off-center. You love her, but tonight you'll outshine her, and she'll know it. There's a fringe belief among temple scribes that a woman's soul exits her body through the center of her forehead, and that poorly drawn brows confuse the spirit's journey. You've never seen it written in stone, but the old women swear it's true. You're not taking chances. You finish your final stroke and lean back. Your reflection in the bronze mirror is unmistakable. Now defined, elegant, symmetrical. Your brows frame your face like hieroglyphs of control. Not a single smudge, not a single thread out of place. You remember stories carved into tomb walls, queens painted with arched brows. Even in the afterlife, their faces still commanding reverence after thousands of years. The artists knew. The gods knew. The brows matter. Outside, the first stars appear soft pinpricks of light scattered across the evening. The air smells of jasmine and warm earth. A servant lights an oil lamp near your door. You watch your reflection flicker in the glow, and still your brows hold their shape, strong, sovereign. You rise slowly, your linen robe catching the breeze like wings. You pass through the corridor in silence, but you know that anyone who looks will see it. The expression, the control, the quiet defiance etched in those two perfect lines above your eyes. And perhaps the most curious truth, you feel different now. Your steps are steadier. Your words, when you speak, will come slower, fuller, because when your face is in harmony, so is your spirit. Historians might call it ritual, others vanity. But you know it for what it is: command, precision, and the soft, sacred power of being exactly as you choose to be seen. The night deepens. The stars now hang thick, like grains of barley spilled across dark silk, and the air cools enough to raise goosebumps along your forearms. But tonight, instead of retreating to bed or preparing for sleep, you prepare for something else, something older, quieter, and utterly Egyptian. A body smoke bath. Yes, that's right. You are about to walk into a chamber filled with fragrant smoke, wearing nothing but linen underlayers and a faint, amused skepticism. Because while others may laugh at the ritual, you know better. This is one of the oldest forms of beauty in the kingdom. Not a bath of water, but a cleansing of scent, of spirit, and perhaps, just maybe of memory. Your servant lifts the brazier lid. Inside coals glow softly nestled among dried herbs, bits of frankincense, shaved sandalwood, and scraps of perfumed resin. As soon as she stirs it with a long copper pin, the smoke begins to rise, not harsh and choking, but soft, curling like fingers calling you forward. You step onto the smooth stones barefoot, arms slightly raised. The smoke immediately wraps around you, slipping into your garments, your hair, your skin. It's warm, ticklish, almost alive. Historians still argue whether these perfumed fumigations were for hygiene, for sacred protection, or just to impress dinner guests. You think it's all of those and something more, something you can't name but feel, like a secret language of scent, known only to the women of this land. Another servant wafts a reed fan, pushing the smoke upward so it passes directly over your face. You close your eyes, breathe in through your nose. The aroma fills your throat, your lungs, your bones. You think of your mother doing this, how she would sit silently, eyes closed as though the smoke reminded her of something forgotten. A time before age, before expectation, before men, just scent and skin. The smoke bath isn't quick. It takes time. The air must thicken. The oils must bind. Every part of you, hands, ankles, even the soles of your feet, must be kissed by the scent. You turn slowly in place, letting the perfume find its way. There's a fringe belief that smoke baths allow the body to remember itself, that over time our skin forgets how to be soft, how to be scented, how to be sacred. The smoke, they say, tells its stories, restores ancient memory. You wouldn't be surprised. As the chamber fills, you start to sweat lightly, not unpleasantly, just enough to feel the smoke clinging more deeply to your pores. This is when the scent embeds itself, when it becomes part of you, not something you wear, but something you are. Your attendant places 2 linen cones beneath your seat, filled with dried lavender and a pinch of powdered mint. As they warm, they release a second layer of fragrance, cooler, sharper, cleaner. You inhale again. The mixture is divine, floral and resinous, and almost edible. You smile faintly. Tomorrow when you pass someone in the garden, they'll pause, they'll sniff the air, they'll wonder what temple breeze you've just walked out of. And that's the point. You step out of the smoke chamber, slowly, deliberately, your linen now infused with invisible layers of perfume. You feel lighter, somehow, not just physically, but spiritually. Like you've been cleansed of noise. A basin of cool water waits nearby. You dip your hands and splash your face, not to rinse, but to seal, to bring the smoke closer to the skin. Historians often overlook this part of Egyptian life. They document the makeup, the jewelry, the linen, but scent is harder to record. Yet, it lingers in every tomb, every oil jar, every whispered prayer. You wrap yourself in a dry outer robe and sit quietly in the courtyard. You say nothing. The night says it for you. You are clean, not with soap, but with presence, with intention. And the gods, if they are anywhere near, will smell you before they see you. The moon is high now, full and silver, casting its soft, ethereal light across the stone walls and still courtyards of your home. Even the breeze has stilled. The torches have been dimmed to embers. And yet, you are not finished, because there is one last step before you can rest. One final act of devotion, not just to the gods or the beauty standards of the day, but to yourself. You walk silently into your sleeping chamber, where the stone floors have cooled and the air is thick with the faint perfume of your smoke bath. There, on a low wooden stool, lies a small pouch, embroidered delicate, tied with a scarlet thread. Inside it, scented linen cones. These are not for melting on your wig. These are for your room. You untie the pouch and remove 2 cones, one scented with blue lotus, the other with crushed myrrh and a whisper of cassia bark. You place one beneath your pillow, the other at the base of your bed, nestled in a bowl of ash to catch any melting drops. When the candles are extinguished and the heat of your body fills the room, the cones will begin to melt slowly, releasing waves of fragrance like invisible lullabies. This is what the Egyptians called scented dreaming. Historians still argue whether this was done to invoke divine messages in dreams or simply to fall asleep in luxury. You, wrapped in your layers of linen, believe it does both, and honestly, you wouldn't dare sleep without them. Your servant enters quietly, carrying a small bundle of dried herbs, lavender and mint, bound in twine. She lights the end and lets the smoke waft gently around the edges of the room. It mixes with the scent of the cones and your own skin, still tinged with sandalwood and saffron from earlier rituals. There is a fringe belief that sleeping in fragrance makes your soul easier to find when it wanders during dreams. That if your body smells of the earth's sweetest offerings, your spirit will always know how to return to it. You cling to that idea like a child to a lullaby. You lie down carefully, adjusting the folds of your robe and resting your head on a pillow stuffed with papyrus shavings and sprigs of mint. The cone beneath your pillow begins to warm. You feel the first note of blue lotus rising into your breath. Soft, floral, slightly musky. Your thoughts begin to melt too. You remember a story your mother told you once, that the pharaoh's sleep chamber was so heavily perfumed the guards had to be changed
every few hours, lest they fall under the spell of the scent. You used to laugh. Now you wonder if it was true. Because lying here, under this invisible veil of perfume, the world does feel softer, lighter, like time is slipping through scented fingers. Your brows are still perfect, your wig carefully removed and stored beside your bed. Your skin is smooth, hairless, dusted with gold. Your lips carry a trace of pomegranate, and your hands, though fading, still bloom faintly with henna. Even in the dark, you know you look divine, not because someone else will see you, but because you will dream yourself that way. Historians might never understand this part of the ritual, the silence, the softness, the way beauty becomes its own kind of prayer. But you do. And as the room darkens and the cones melt and your breath slows into rhythm with the rise and fall of your chest, you offer one last thought into the space between dreams and gods, that beauty is not only how you wake, it is how you rest, and in that rest you are eternal. Dawn again. It comes silently as always, first brushing the distant hills in faint gold, then dipping into the palm canopies with a quiet shimmer. It glides across the Nile, turns the river into molten glass, and spills at last into the corners of your sleeping chamber. The room is still, warm. Your limbs lie folded like linen, softened by the sleep scent of melting perfume cones and yesterday's faint oils. And before your eyes even open, your fingers reach out, searching for your morning box. You rise slowly, not because you are tired, but because every motion must be intentional. Beauty is not a thing you chase in Egypt. It is a posture, a discipline, a quiet rhythm between flesh and ritual. Your servant enters without sound. She carries a shallow bowl of warmed water, rose-scented and faintly cloudy with dissolved natron. Behind her, another girl lays out your cleansing kit. A bone scraper, a palm-sized alabaster jar of morning oil, fresh linen strips, and a reed brush bound with black thread. You nod to both without speaking. The gods may speak in thunder and flame, but the work of beauty begins in silence. You begin, as always, by scraping. The bone tool is cool at first, gliding across your thighs, then your arms, your neck, your back. Each pass draws off a whisper of sweat, old oil, and dead skin. You don't rush. You scrape in long, deliberate strokes as you were taught, always moving upward toward the heart. Your skin responds immediately, warmer, more alert, but soothed. Historians still argue over the true purpose of this ritual. Was it purely hygienic, a pre-oil polish, or was there deeper meaning? Perhaps something forgotten, an understanding of the body as not just flesh, but vessel, a mirror of divine geometry to be cleared each day, like the temple floor before prayer. You don't pretend to know. You only know how it feels correct. Next, the cloth. Your servant dips it into the rose water
and presses it into your skin, patting gently, then wiping in slow, wide spirals. Your arms, your chest, your back. The cloth is changed every morning, always prepared, fresh soaked with oil, folded tightly, pressed under a slab of smooth marble, so that its scent stays trapped until the moment it touches you. The sensation is cool, even in this warmth. It brings goosebumps to your forearms and a prickle to the back of your neck. You breathe in deeply the aroma of crushed petals, mixing with the faint morning wind drifting through the shutters. Birds call distantly from the tamarind trees. Someone begins sweeping the courtyard. The world is awakening, but you are already ahead of it. Now comes the oil. You take the alabaster jar in both hands, a gesture of thanks, and unstopper it. The scent is heady, familiar, almond mixed with myrrh and a trace of cinnamon. This is your signature, the one chosen for you at 15, approved by your mother and your aunt and the house priestess. It is warm, rich, and serious. You pour 3 drops into your palm and begin the process, upward strokes along the calves, across the thighs, circling the stomach, tracing the collarbones. Each motion is part of a sequence. You've memorized a map of the body, drawn and redrawn daily in oil. You move slowly. You let the oil speak to your skin. Let it find the dry places, the sunburnt places, the hidden folds and soft creases. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is skipped. And yes, you oil your feet, especially your heels. The old women always said cracked heels meant the gods had turned their faces away. You believe them. And besides, there's something satisfying about the softness that returns after only a few days of consistent attention, like the body saying, "Thank you." You stand when the final drop is rubbed in. The breeze catches your skin now, and you feel it differently, like silk sliding across polished stone. You're not just clean. You're sealed. A servant arrives with your dressing robe, simple linen, today, pale ivory, freshly washed and still warm from the sun. She helps you slip into it and ties it loosely at the waist. You run your fingers along the seam, pressing it flat. The texture of the cloth against your newly oiled skin is soft alive. You are not just clothed. You are composed. You walk slowly into the courtyard. The light is gentler here, filtered through slatted palm fronds. The scent of lotus drifts from a basin nearby. You dip your fingers in, splash your face gently, and then look up to greet the sun. Eyes closed, lips parted slightly. It warms your brow, your nose, your chin. You whisper a short prayer to Ma'at for balance, then one to Hathor for radiance. There is a fringe belief whispered by temple seamstresses that the morning oil binds your soul into your body more firmly, that without it, your spirit floats loose all day uncertain. It may forget which face belongs to you. Whether it's true or not, you never skip this step. Never. A servant approaches with your morning drink, date syrup, diluted with warm water and a touch of crushed mint.
You sip slowly, savoring the mix of sugar and herb. The sweetness anchors you, the mint sharpens your senses, and as you sit back against the courtyard wall, light pouring across the floor in slow-moving columns, you allow yourself to exhale. You have not spoken a single unnecessary word this morning. You have not rushed. You have not neglected your face, your skin, your breath. Your beauty today is not dramatic, not showy. It is quiet. It is settled. It is present. You glance into a small polished mirror resting beside your seat. No kohl yet. No henna. No malachite. Just you, and still you look radiant. Historians often speak of ancient Egyptian beauty as a performance. They write about makeup, jewelry, wigs, spectacle. But they miss the first hour. This hour, the silent one, the one that begins in the dark with bone and oil and cloth, with the body reminding itself of itself, with the soul stepping fully into its shape. You sit there a little longer, listening to the bird song, the rustle of fig leaves, the distant chanting of priests. You finish your drink and feel the warmth bloom in your chest, and you smile, not for anyone else, not even for the gods, but because you remembered, and that in Egypt is the first beauty of the day. Evening falls once more. It returns as it always does, quiet, gradual, not with a crash, but with a breath. The light fades from gold to amber to slate. Shadows stretch long across the stone floor, slipping between columns, wrapping themselves gently around your ankles as you move. It's time now, not for embellishment, not for performance, but for preparation. Because beauty in Egypt does not end with the sunset. It simply changes shape. You're back in your chamber, where a shallow basin of warm lotus water waits. The scent rises in coils, soft, familiar. The tools have already been laid out, your cleansing stones, your unguents, your pigment pots, your fine brushes cut from bird feathers. You nod at your attendants, and they step back, leaving you alone. This part is yours. You begin by removing the day gently, the oils and powders, the soot and sun. You take a strip of fine linen, dip it into the water, and press it to your face. The malachite softens. The kohl begins to loosen. You do not scrub. You lift carefully, layer by layer, as though removing a story you've already told but want to keep intact. Each pass over your skin feels like memory. You remember the exact shape of your brows this morning, the texture of your lips when you pressed the red pigment on, the dusting of gold you added to your cheeks, and now all of it fading into cloth, disappearing into water. Historians still debate whether Egyptians removed their makeup every day or allowed it to layer and deepen over time. You know the answer, because you live it. Of course you remove it, because tomorrow's ritual must begin on fresh skin, clean skin, reverent skin,
Once your face is bare, you press the heel of your hand gently to your cheek. Your skin is soft, supple, still faintly warm from the day's sun. You dip your fingers into the jar of blue lotus balm and begin to massage. Slow circles, tiny taps. The balm melts beneath your fingertips and disappears into your skin, leaving behind a whisper of scent and the faintest sheen. Next, your hands. You hold them out before you and study them. The henna has begun to fade, softening from flame orange to dusky rust. It's still beautiful, in its own way, like the ghost of a blessing that refuses to leave. You reach for the oil meant for palms and soles, thick with frankincense and resin. You rub it in, thoroughly kneading each finger, each joint. This oil is meant for sleep, to prevent cracking, to keep the spirit tethered, even in dreams. Then your feet. You slide your sandals off and dip your toes into another basin. Warm water again this time, infused with mint and a little salt. You let them soak. You lean back. You let your breath slow. There's a fringe belief passed among old perfume makers that your feet remember everywhere your soul has wandered during the day. That to cleanse them is to thank your body for carrying your spirit through the dust, the heat, the judgment of the world. You like that. You believe that. And now you dress for sleep. Not in heavy linen, not in anything structured. Just a loose wrap of the thinnest cloth, dyed pale blue, nearly translucent. The kind of cloth that whispers against your skin. You tie it only once at your waist and let the rest hang loose. The room is darker now. The oil lamp flickers. The cone of perfumed wax beneath your chair has begun to melt, releasing its final breath of lotus, cinnamon, and myrrh into the space. You settle into your sleeping mat, slowly, carefully. One last ritual remains. You reach for the reed stylus and the flat clay tablet near your bedside. A personal ritual, not religious, not required, but sacred all the same. You write one word, just one. Whatever word carries the weight of the day. Maybe it's glow. Maybe it's soft. Maybe it's done. You inscribe it carefully, in demotic, in your hand, not for anyone else to read. Just so your spirit knows what kind of sleep to take. Historians may never find these tablets. They may never understand why women across centuries carried them marked, them kept them close. But that's fine. Some parts of beauty aren't meant to be discovered. Some are only meant to be lived. You lie back now. The scent surrounds you. Your face is clean. Your body is soft. Your breath is steady. And as your eyes begin to close, your last thought is not of gods or guests or garments. It is of the quiet power of this, that in a world of heat, dust, and death, you have made yourself beautiful again and again and again. And in that beauty there is peace. The night deepens fully now, and the world outside your chamber fades into stillness. The firelight dims to embers. The scent of blue lotus drifts softly toward the ceiling, where it mingles with the stars you can't quite see, but know are there watching. The linen beneath you breathes with your body warm in some places, cool in others, shifting gently each time you turn your head or sigh. You don't think in words anymore, just in sensations, the silk of oil on your arms, the softness behind your knees, the way that dried henna lingers like a story half told across your fingertips. You're no longer performing, no longer preparing. There is nothing to prove here, no lines to draw, no pigment to place, just the quiet aftermath of effort, a stillness earned. In the distance a jackal howls once, not loud, not close, just enough to remind you that the desert is always listening. And yet here in this small sacred space you feel only safety. Your breathing slows, your lashes brush the pillow. The last bit of gold dust on your shoulder catches the moonlight before disappearing into the dark. You think I have done enough. And then, as your thoughts sink gently below the surface of sleep, you hear the faintest whisper, not from a voice, not even from within, but from the very air around you. You are remembered. And with that, you drift, wrapped in softness, steeped in scent, held in the arms of your own ritual. Evening falls once more. It returns as it always does, quiet, gradual, not with a crash, but with a breath. The light fades from gold to amber to slate. Shadows stretch long across the stone floor, slipping between columns, wrapping themselves gently around your ankles as you move. It's time now, not for embellishment, not for performance, but for preparation. Because beauty in Egypt does not end with the sunset. It simply changes shape. You're back in your chamber, where a shallow basin of warm lotus water waits. The scent rises in coils, soft, familiar. The tools have already been laid out, your cleansing stones, your unguents, your pigment pots, your fine brushes cut from bird feathers. You nod at your attendants, and they step back, leaving you alone. This part is yours. You begin by removing the day gently, the oils and powders, the soot and sun. You take a strip of fine linen, dip it into the water, and press it to your face. The malachite softens. The coal begins to loosen. You do not scrub. You lift, carefully, layer by layer, as though removing a story you've already told but want to keep intact. Each pass over your skin feels like memory. You remember the exact shape of your brows this morning, the texture of your lips when you pressed the red pigment on, the dusting of gold you added to your cheeks. And now, all of it fading into cloth, disappearing into water. Historians still debate whether Egyptians removed their makeup every day or allowed it to layer and deepen over time. You know the answer because you live it. Of course you remove it because tomorrow's ritual
must begin on fresh skin, clean skin, reverent skin. Once your face is bare, you press the heel of your hand gently to your cheek. Your skin is soft, supple, still faintly warm from the day's sun. You dip your fingers into the jar of blue lotus balm and begin to massage. Slow circles, tiny taps. The balm melts beneath your fingertips and disappears into your skin, leaving behind a whisper of scent and the faintest sheen. Next, your hands. You hold them out before you and study them. The henna has begun to fade, softening from flame orange to dusky rust. It's still beautiful in its own way, like the ghost of a blessing that refuses to leave. You reach for the oil meant for palms and soles, thick with frankincense and resin. You rub it in, thoroughly kneading each finger, each joint. This oil is meant for sleep, to prevent cracking, to keep the spirit tethered, even in dreams. Then your feet. You slide your sandals off and dip your toes into another basin. Warm water again this time, infused with mint and a little salt. You let them soak. You lean back. You let your breath slow. There is a fringe belief passed among old perfume makers that your feet remember everywhere your soul has wandered during the day. That to cleanse them is to thank your body for carrying your spirit through the dust, the heat, the judgment of the world. You like that. You believe that. And now you dress for sleep, not in heavy linen, not in anything structured, just a loose wrap of the thinnest cloth, dyed pale blue, nearly translucent. The kind of cloth that whispers against your skin. You tie it only once at your waist and let the rest hang loose. The room is darker now. The oil lamp flickers. The cone of perfumed wax beneath your chair has begun to melt, releasing its final breath of lotus cinnamon and myrrh into the space. You settle into your sleeping mat, slowly, carefully. One last ritual remains. You reach for the reed stylus and the flat clay tablet near your bedside. A personal ritual, not religious, not required, but sacred, all the same. You write one word, just one. Whatever word carries the weight of the day. Maybe it's glow, maybe it's soft, maybe it's done. You inscribe it carefully, in demotic, in your hand, not for anyone else to read, just so your spirit knows what kind of sleep to take. Historians may never find these tablets. They may never understand why women across centuries carried them, marked them, kept them close. But that's fine. Some parts of beauty aren't meant to be discovered. Some are only meant to be lived. You lie back now. The scent surrounds you. Your face is clean. Your body is soft. Your breath is steady. And as your eyes begin to close, your last thought is not of gods or guests or garments. It is of the quiet power of this, that in a world of heat, dust, and death, you have made yourself beautiful again and again and again, and in that beauty there is peace.